You have heard time and time again that you need to know exactly who your ideal client is. The problem, most people don't take the time to really get clear on this. So what happens is you create content, you create emails, you're creating offers without any idea of who you're really trying to help. And then the frustration sets in because people aren't engaging in the content, or you've got the wrong people engaging in the content. And then you're not getting the conversions. People aren't wanting to buy what your service is. And that just leads to more frustration. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through 3 quick steps for getting client clarity on who your ideal client really is to help you attract more of them. Hi, I'm Joyce Lehman, and I help entrepreneurs create a solid brand foundation so they can stand out online, sell more services, and make a bigger impact without the overwhelm. I did a previous video on getting client clarity, and I had several people reach out asking for more information. So that's why I created this video today. So my question to you is, are you really clear on who your ideal client is? As you well know, the online world is saturated with tons of people who offer similar, if not the same things that you do. So it is more important than ever to get clear about who your ideal client is, because everything that you create going forward is based around this person. So until you get true clarity, then you risk throwing time and money down the drain. So with that, I want you to think about this depending on what stage you're at in your business. So if you're fairly new in business, you may have that urge because you want to market to everyone. Well, in essence, you're going to end up serving no one. And I am surprised to see how often even seasoned business owners don't have that true clarity. And part of this is it's hard for you to connect if you don't know who that ideal person is. So part of the process, this clarity process, is figuring out not just who that person you think that you want to work with, it's who is that person that you love to work with and what are their needs and their desires. Whether it be you're a health coach focusing on that, you're a business coach, maybe do consulting, you have some sort of product that you offer. In fact, I saw within my Facebook group, there was a woman who was focused on couples who had infertility issues. She wasn't a physician, but it was a specific process she could take people through. So part of it is getting true clarity is going to be so important. That's when you also can really refine your message with this, and you can connect at an emotional level with them. So here's something that happens too, is when you're thinking about where you're at in your business, you think about why you decided to start your business. Odds are you might actually be your ideal client if you think back 3, 4, 5 years ago. I look at the transitions I've made in my business since I started it in 2008. So think about where you were, what got you excited about doing the work that you are doing, because the odds are you are a version of your ideal client. So as we're going through this, if you want access to show notes, because I'm going to give you some great information, then let me know by posting show notes in the comments and you will receive them. You're also going to get updates on the next time when I go live, so you don't miss any of these great free trainings. All right. So with that, here are your 3 steps. The first thing I want you to do is define what you want in a client. So part of this is, if you look at, you've been in business a while, go look at your existing client base. Couple of different things to do is, I've had clients, if it's true business development and sales, we're going to define those clients by what I call your A, B, C, and F. You can take a similar approach when you're truly getting client clarity. So your A client, this is your biggest, best client. This is the client you would offer your entire suite of services to. So as an example, When I was doing more in the corporate realm, my corporate clients, those were my A clients. They took the longest to land. It was the longest sales cycle, but I could go in and do a keynote. I could do workshops. I could do one-on-one coaching. And then I had a group coaching program that they could access online. So think about the suite of services that you have, and those would be in that A client. Some people call them a bear, some people call them a whale, but that is that biggest, best client. Now, typically what I tell my folks to focus on is your B client. These are your average size clients. This is where your consistent income, the majority of your revenue should come into play. Because as I said, an A client is the longest sales cycle. It's going to be a smaller group that's going to do that, but your B client, so if you think bear, they could be a deer if you want to use animals, or it could be a whale or a dolphin. But if you think about that as far as size and the services that you offer, then look at those clients. As I said, you love to serve them. It's the individuals that are easy. I hate to use the word land, but I don't know how else to phrase that. But these are the clients that it's a shorter sales cycle in that regard. Now, your C clients, these could be a rabbit. You eat skinny, you're still going to eat, but these are rabbits. So maybe it's somebody who comes to you and they want a strategy session, or they want to attend a mini workshop that you have. It could be paid, but think about these small clients. They're not ready to go into your group coaching program or your one-on-one consulting services, but they want to get a taste of what you do. So really sit down, and in those categories, then think about who are the biggest, best, who are these average size clients, the ones that most of your revenue should come from? And then who are these other people? They desperately need your help, but they tend to start off small. Now that could be also because they have a smaller budget, or they've invested in other places. As I found, they've gotten burned, and so they're not quite ready to go full on. So they want to see about what you do. So that's the first thing, is truly define when you're looking at these clients, then look at the characteristics that they have in common, because you're going to start to notice that the more clients that you work with. So then you can score accordingly, but kind of keep track and say, these are the clients I absolutely love. These are the clients, I still love them, slightly smaller. It's going to take a little bit more effort to fill your sales results or your revenue results at the end of the year. But truly, when you're looking at characteristics between everybody, who do you love to work with? Who is it when the phone rings that lights you up and you're like, oh my gosh, they're really hitting that spot, that sweet spot of what you do, their personality. It's the mindset sometime with those characteristics. So also, what value do you deliver, and what would you love to help them do? What is that? If you worked with that person every single day, what is that? So that's the first thing, is define what you want in a client. I don't want you to take clients just because you have to pay the bills. Sometimes at the beginning, people do that. But if the phone rings or you get an email and you're like, oh God, I really don't want to work with this person, those are the wrong kind of clients to be going after. So whether you have a new client base that you're building, then look at the folks that you love spending time with. Look at those business connections that you may have. What are the characteristics of those people? Because that can help you define what you want in a client. Also, this process helps your reticular activating system. It's that spot in the central cortex of your brain that when something's important, the information gets through, and that helps you with content creation and all of that. So first off, define what you want an ideal client. May take time. I will tell you, I've had coaching clients that not only when they do this step, then they have a chance to reach back out, and they have generated revenue having conversations with past clients. Not quite the same video. I'm not going to walk you through those steps today, but I'll tell you what, it's going to spark ideas and you will love this process. Okay. The other thing, when you get clear about the person that you want to work with, or that ideal client, it's also going to help you weed out who you don't want to work with. So I said A, B, C, bear, deer, rabbits, it could be whale, dolphin, and who knows, bass. But it's those F clients. These are the clients, they're the ones, whether it's their mindset, whether it's they're at a stage in business that you can't help. For example, 𝗪𝗓 who is one of my best friends and one of my accountability partners, she does CFO consulting services, and the clients that she does that for, they have to hit a certain income level or her services don't make sense. So sometimes when you're looking at who you don't want to work with, as I said, it could be the mindset side of things, or maybe they're just not at the right stage for what you do. Maybe you don't want to work with newbies in business. Maybe you want to work with somebody who's a little bit more seasoned. You know, when I think of examples of entrepreneurs, and an entrepreneur can fall into any number of, it could be a small business owner. Coaches are who I love to serve because I am a coach, but I find that entrepreneurs have been reaching out to me over the years. But if I think about like startups in the Kansas City scene, somebody who's starting a business like that, moreover on the corporate side, they're not a good fit to me. If they're going to be, you know, B2B, but a true startup in the entrepreneurial space, that's not a good fit. A service-based individual is definitely going to be a good fit. So try to line that out. The other thing too, I mentioned the infertility, the woman that coaches on infertility. Her specialty, because of state licensing, she is limited to a geographic area, but yet she said a part of her services, she could work with anybody anywhere, but this one specific service that she has, she can only work with people within her state, and that's a licensing thing. So as I said, when you get clear on who, you know, what you want in a client, then it's going to help to really define who you don't want, who might be totally frustrating to you. So one of the things that I did in the process of updating my website, so think about this too, especially if you're putting out content, maybe you've got a lead magnet, if you're redoing your website, I have two different sections on my coaching page. And one says, we might be a good fit together, or a good fit to work together if, and I list out certain characteristics. I want the people that are curious. They've watched a YouTube video, they want more. They read a lead magnet, they want more. They don't want to go viral. They would like to go viral. I take that back. They're not basing their expectation on growing their business on going viral. They understand that building a business takes time to put in that foundation, and they're willing to put in slow, consistent effort. Doesn't have to be complicated, but they're willing to put in that consistent effort over time. So those are great characteristics. Now, the other column says, no matter which option you choose of coaching, we won't be a good fit to work together if you don't want to use social media. I had a client I actually fired last year because they hired me. My website guy helped them out. You know, we were talking about email, their lists, which they had. We were talking about social. And the wife, through all of this, she's like, I don't want to be out on social. Well, it's really hard to build your business online if you're not willing to use social media. And it dawned on me, it's like, that needs to be on the website. I also want people that actually want to put in effort. So if you say, I don't want to spend time in my business, and I'm not saying 40 hours a week, I'm looking for individuals who are willing to dedicate. Maybe it's 5 hours because you're building this along with something else, or you just could be at a place in your life where you don't want to work 40 hours a week. You'd love to work 10, but of the time that you've chosen to work, that you're willing to put in the work. So if somebody says, I don't want to work that hard, you're not a good fit for me. And that's what I have gone and put on the site. So think about how you can very clearly spell out, and I realize there's a difference between attracting somebody through a social media content or post, and then they're coming in through your funnel, they're getting to know you, they've actually clicked on your website. But how can you help people see that you're a good fit for them, or your services may not be a fit for where they're at in their business right now? So think about that. Clearly define. Also, when you know what you want in a client, it becomes so much easier to identify them. So I mentioned your reticular activating system earlier. It's a spot in your brain because there's so much information that we are being bombarded with every day. I mean, think about it. If you get out on social, just skimming through a feed, it's tons of stuff. But when you've gotten clarity and you know the characteristics of who you're looking for, it could be somebody that posts something. It could be somebody that you're having a one-on-one conversation or even in a networking event, whatever that might be. Your brain starts to pick up and go, oh yeah, you're a good fit. So the other thing too is it helps you to realize where you need to be spending time to find more people who look like that. So part of what you'll come through in this clarity process is go where is that person? Where are they spending time? Are they in particular groups? We're not going to dive into avatars, but that's when we get into psychographics and demographics. It's a little bit more complicated than what I want to share in 20 minutes. So really start off with define what you want in a client. That's the easiest way. But then when you take that client avatar process, which I take all my coaching folks to, then you get more specific. That takes time and it takes research. You can certainly get there. So second thing, number 2 is make sure that their gap is in your sweet spot of what you do. So what I mean by that is when I was doing keynotes all over the country, National Speakers Association, and my business back in 2008, that's where I was focused, doing keynotes and trainings within companies. And I remember seeing some newbie speakers. They would have 10 different topics that they would speak on versus the top speakers were very niche. They came down to 1 or 2, maybe 3 different topics that they spoke on, but it was all very much within their sweet spot. So when you think about if you try to be all things to everyone, then that's when you're having to post content. It's like there isn't clarity and people have a hard time seeing that you can actually be helping them. So it's super important that you know what your sweet spot is, and then you look at the gap that they have. So what happens is people buy emotionally. So there's either a goal, there's a desire, there's something that it's where they're at. They want to accomplish this thing, and that gap in the middle, that's the problem that you solve. So that's why you've got to look at it and go, is what I do, is my service or services, maybe you've got several offers and you should have several offers, but does that actually fit that need versus I got to go create this to serve this type of person and I got to go create something else and I got to go create something else versus really focusing your efforts. It goes back to, think about the Facebook ads that you've seen. Then people have a very specific thing that they're marketing. You can't market 10 things that may or may not be the right fit. It's exhausting and it doesn't work. So that's why as you're in the early stages of your business, then it's tempting to want to be doing all these things for different people. But sit down and really go, once you've gone through those first steps, A, B, C, and F clients, who you want to work with, who you don't want to work with, then you start to uncover their needs and you look at that and you go, does that really fit my sweet spot? Is this something that you have experience doing? Is it something you love to do? You shouldn't be spending your time doing work that you don't like. As an example, I will never talk to you about Facebook ads because I don't teach on that. That's something that I have to learn myself. There's too much of a learning curve. I don't want to go through that. I've done Facebook ads in the past. I've hired other people to do it, but you will never find me teaching on it. I'm not going to send out a lead magnet. I'm not going to post social content around it. What I will talk about is creating gotta love life, an organic cross-platform strategy, because you don't just want to be relying on Facebook. You don't just want to be relying on Instagram or TikTok. You want to be able to have email. You want to be, you want to have a cross-platform strategy. That I will talk to you about. Facebook ads, I won't talk to you about. Do I love tech? Yes. Do I coach clients on certain tech platforms based on where they're at? Yes. But I'm not going to go in and do a mini chat educational training. That's a chat bot, by the way. I use mini chat but I'm not going to train you on it because there are other people more qualified. So hopefully this makes sense in the process of, it's not that you may not have experience, but think about what you love to do, you're great at doing, you can easily deliver it, and it's right there every single day. That's a big one. So their gap is in your sweet spot. If their gap is not, then that's, like I said, it's not, you're trying to serve too many people. And that's something that I hear from folks. They get concerned that they're afraid if they narrow their niche too much, that they won't have clients to work with. The more narrow your niche is, then the easier it is for somebody to recognize that you are the expert that can help them solve their problem. And I say this, social media branding is important. It's absolutely important that you need to do that for your business, but you've got to have clarity around what you do. So as you're creating the branding, not just a company name, but you're creating your value statement, that tagline, you're putting out social posts, then it's very specific on what it is that you do. So, like I said, we're not talking about colors and all of that, extremely important. Getting a good brand is important, but it's the messaging. I want you to think about the true messaging that you're putting across. All right, so number 3 is who needs this the most? So what I want you to do is either grab a piece of paper and a pen, and if not, then if you post show notes in the comments below, then when the video is done within the next couple of days, you will get access to all of the show notes. That this is going to make it so much easier for you to do. Okay. And I am going to make sure that I'm reading my notes so I get all of these. All right. So now that you're starting to get that idea of who your client is, then what I want you to ask yourself is, will they resonate with your personality or your personal story? This is, when you're thinking about who needs this the most, I'm sure there are thousands of people that need what you have. The question is, how do we narrow that down a little bit? So who needs it the most? Because people can need what you do, but are they willing to invest in what you have? And that is number 2. So do they value what you do? So if you're marketing to people, you're marketing to a particular audience, they don't value what you do. They would rather kick tires, take all the freebies. They want to join your group, but they're never willing to engage. They're not going to show up. Then those aren't the right fit for you. That target audience is not the right fit for you. So will they resonate with your personality or your personal story? As you know, you can have 2 different coaches, you can have 2 different MDs. I don't care. You can have 2 different insurance salesmen, 2 different bankers, whatever that is, with completely different personalities. So sometimes it is a personality fit. That's the thing to think about too. Back in your, step 1 is, who do you love to work with? Sometimes it's a personality thing. So think about that. But your personal story, a lot of times, especially coaches, I see this of, it's the experience that you've had that you can so relate. You know the frustration, the challenges. So it's super easy for somebody to connect with you because they know that you have been there. So make sure, will they resonate? Do they value? Can they afford to hire you? Everybody's going to have a different budget. Some people know the value of investing in a coach or in a service provider, in a consultant. Some people get that. They want to shorten their learning curve. That's why I've invested thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars over the last couple of years, because I know there are coaches out there that are several steps ahead of me. And I know that what I learn will also benefit my clients. And so I go very specific to individuals that I know they have their niche, and that's who I've chosen to work with. So as I said, it's not that some people, if they can afford to hire you, that's great. Having different offers. So maybe if you've got a full-on coaching package, then think about a mini offer. These are for the people that they can't afford your full on, but they can certainly benefit from what you're doing. So when you have that mini offer, then it gives somebody a taste. Maybe it's even a free workshop that you do that keeps them in your ecosystem. And then when they do have the money, they do see the value and they're ready to pay, then it makes total sense. So that's a big thing. Also look at, are there Facebook groups? Are there, are they targeting your ideal client and the ones that are covering the gap with your sweet spot? Facebook groups are a great place to do research. Pinterest is a great place to do research. LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, those are all great places. So once you get this clarity, then that's when you can go back and start looking and seeing, here's my ideal client. Where are they spending more time? And it also helps you to dive into a little bit deeper research. Also, are there courses or books being taught on what you do? Because you want to see that this is a good topic to be focusing on. And then where else are people spending time online? So all these things, as I said, if you post show notes, then we'll make sure that you get copies of the show notes after the fact. So part of this, yes, it takes time. I'm just going to tell you, when you're getting these foundations laid in your business, it does take time to create. But once it's done, that way you can build a solid strategy off of that. Otherwise, as I mentioned early on, you're going to be posting content and doing all the things, but you're not going to be getting the results. So in turn, you just wasted time. It is worth time to do this. Now, going back to recap, define what you want in a client. Secondly, make sure their gap is your sweet spot, and then determine who needs what you have to offer the most. Because once you have the solid understanding, then everything becomes easier. It's easier to create content. It's easier to create lead magnets. It's easier to create mini offers or tweak the offers that you currently have. The other thing is that you can really tap in on that emotional side. People buy because of emotion. And so that's what helps you tap in there and create that authentic connection, which is so important in today's world. Relationships drive everything. And then ultimately what happens is there are people out there, they genuinely need what you have to offer, and they are willing to pay for your services. So that's why get client clarity first to help you create what you need. And then make sure as you're bringing people into your ecosystem that you are nurturing them along in the process. Because as you know, just because somebody sees a post doesn't mean that they're ready to buy. Wouldn't that be great if that was the case? So it's super important to do this and then also think through the process as far as nurturing. So with that, like I said, I will go back after the fact, make sure that you've got show notes that are delivered. And then the other thing I want to share, we've got coming up on March 23rd. This is the second time I've done this. I did this workshop last year. I've completely revamped it. It's my Visibility Boost workshop on March 23rd. So if you want information to the Visibility Boost workshop, then post Visibility Boost below, and I will make sure that you get those details. And with that, there is a visibility audit that goes out. There is a workbook that you get to work through. And if you noticed how much you got out of here, then imagine getting more about client clarity, also what you need to do to be visible, and going back to the social media or that brand presence. We're going to be diving into all of that in that 75-minute free workshop. So with that, get to work on your client clarity, and I will see you next time.